Tomorrow is pretty exciting, and not just because I'm in Bangkok, which is a wonderful city for culture. Tomorrow flying Malaysian Airlines, it's a double bill. We're flying firstly in the Boeing 737 over to Kuala Lumpur, and then we're connecting onto their Airbus A330. Not the new one sadly, but we're going to have a great time.
Without lingering on the past, Malaysian has been in a sort of recovery mode since those tragic events. And I have to say that recently I've been really impressed with the hospitality and the food offering. In addition, they'll be welcoming 20 brand new Airbus A330neos to the fleet between now and 2028, featuring those fantastic Collins Aerospace seats we know and love that feature on so many other airlines. It's a far cry from today's product, but there's still some beautiful gems like the throne seat. More on that later in the video.
Morning, it's off to the airport.
Being someone who's very familiar with Bangkok, the weather is far less humid and warm today, and as a result the airport is heaving with passengers. So unsurprisingly, there's quite a queue for the economy check-in. We get to skip that and head for the golden line that is business class. And something I really wish more airports would do, looking at you Sao Paulo, there's a dedicated fast lane for those arriving or departing in business class here at Suvarnabhumi Airport.
So what would you say? It was an absolute delight for immigration this morning. They've installed these new scanners and basically it takes about 5 minutes, if not less. Very impressed, no more long queues.
Malaysian's official lounge at Suvarnabhumi International Airport is the Miracle Lounge on level 3. I could go here, it's a pretty good looking third party lounge, but I have other ideas. Cathay Pacific is a partner of Malaysia Airlines in the same airline alliance. It has its own lounge here, and being inside one just makes me feel all warm and bubbly inside. It doesn't take a genius to see why, it's just homely. Cathay Pacific's lounge in Bangkok doesn't feature those beautiful dark stone wall and very ambient showers you find in other locations. But that's because after consulting regular travellers, it was decided to install a restaurant because space is limited, where you can order delights like this wonderful wonton noodle soup. I have to say, I feel a little smug coming here because the designers are based in London, and they wanted to create a sense of style, luxury and comfort, and the theme is shared across the other lounges around the world. I didn't realise it at the time, but there was a very good reason why the suggested lounge is the Miracle and not Cathay Pacific.
So unfortunately for me, that was a lovely lounge, but the gate is actually really far away, and I thought it was like 5 to 7 minutes, so I need to hurry.
Looking at a map of the airport, the Cathay Pacific lounge is in the G section, while today's flight departs from C, which according to the overhead signs is at least a 15-minute walk.
I made it, and I still have some breath left in me. Anyway, let's have a look at the map. It's quite a short journey today, but either way.
Departing at a very pleasant 11:05, MH785 will take just over 2 hours to reach Kuala Lumpur, covering 738 miles.
So I'm here before the boarding, which is great. Unfortunately, boarding time is 10:05, but the plane doesn't get here until 10:15 and it's 5 minutes late. How does that work?
Some airlines do this deliberately to make sure that everyone is at the gate on time. From a passenger's point of view, turning up on time and then having to wait can be boring. So I'm checking out airplanes I'm reviewing this year, like Cebu Pacific's incredible all-economy class A330-900neo, that has an eye-watering 459 seats across the entire plane, with Malaysian's A330 for comparison only having 287 across 2 different classes of seat. Before flying Cebu Pacific's A330, I was pretty sure I was going to moan about the size of the seat, and it being far too dense, but actually had a really good time and it was a fun experience. Well done for Cebu Pacific. At the same time we were due to board, the gate finally opened, with a very organised queue for a boarding card check. I do love a good queue.
I have to say it was pretty nice that most people, I stress, lined up really nicely.
Today's flight is operated by Malaysian's Boeing 737-800, with 42 in the fleet, of which 11 are the brand new MAX 8s. Unfortunately, today's flight is the older variant. On a positive, it's still a huge upgrade from what we have back in Europe, which is basically economy with the middle seat knocked out of use. Malaysian has two different versions of the 737, with today's being the slightly denser business class layout with 4 rows instead of 3. There's no bad choice, with the option being window or aisle, and row 1 having more pitch being the exit row.
These are pretty good. They look a bit like premium economy, but they're actually business class seats.
And the recliner business class seat can also be found on Turkish and Qatar's Airbus A320.
23 inches of width and a generous 42 inches of pitch, and they're really comfortable.
Maybe you can't see it on camera, but they do have a really good amount of recline, in fact 7 inches. And I just can't get over how spacious they feel, and the blue leather really suits the cabin. If you're still not impressed, you can even allow your legs to get in on the enjoyment by deploying the leg support, which has an optional footrest you need to manually put out yourself. Elevating the experience even further, you get a warm blanket, a pillow which are lovely but unnecessary, and a choice of welcome drink. Sadly no alcohol, but orange juice, apple or guava will do nicely. This variant of the 737 also features plenty of air nozzles, which are particularly handy when someone else's preference for the cabin is a little warm, and Boeing sky ceiling, which sort of mimics a blue sky. I'm going to save the in-flight entertainment for the next flight, because it's a little bit bright for the screen. I will add that the display is 10.6 inches in size, which is fine, but sadly it's not the most responsive or intuitive. Malaysia didn't have to print a menu, but it certainly adds to the luxury experience. Haven't quite made my mind up yet between the sea bass or the Thai red curry. Either way, it's great to see some choices. There's also a reasonable but not overly extensive choice of drinks, and again, no alcohol. Tray table deployed, and it's a sturdy one. I moved away from the fish to the Thai red curry, which looks wholesome. It was packed for the flavour with nicely steamed vegetables. And as for the starter, it's a simple but elegant chicken, potato salad and some lettuce. No complaints whatsoever. What I couldn't quite make my mind up with was the dessert. I'm not a fan of anything coconut, but this local specialty, sagu pudding with coconut cream and mango coulis, was actually really good, and has opened up a whole new world for me. It wouldn't be a full review without telling you that the old school bathroom was a little basic, but it did have some lovely products. The headphones are the same great pair you get on the long haul routes, and the cabin crew were just wonderful, proactive and smiley.
Really enjoyable flight, really comfortable seat, really wide, and I'll see you in the morning for part 2. So it's 5:50 in the morning, it's off to the airport.
Today's flight departs at 8:55, so I didn't want to be far from the airport, and the Ibis Star was a good, easy price option with a free shuttle service. There are a lot of check-in desks for Malaysian Airlines at Kuala Lumpur International Airport, otherwise known as Clear, in Terminal 1, with Row D being for their premium passengers, which is currently undergoing renovation. So it's a short walk over to Zone B with domestic being on the left and international on the right.
So that was a really easy experience. It took about 3 minutes in total, even with all the documentation for China. And for some reason, I'm not sure why I got this free souvenir. Lovely.
Cleared Terminal 1 has also seen the introduction of automatic passport checking. So if you're from the UK like me, then passport control can take as little as 30 seconds. Yesterday we arrived into the main terminal, which handles Malaysian shorter routes and Boeing 737s, with a satellite terminal for all the long-haul and wide-body aircraft. As of January 2025, unfortunately the refurb to the shuttle train is still ongoing, but they have a really well-organised shuttle bus service in operation, and I've never seen a large queue for it.
So Malaysian has 2 lounges, one for business class international and one for, well, one called Emerald and I guess first class, but they don't really have a first class anymore because it's now business suite.
With 60 minutes until boarding, I intend to visit both parts of the lounge, with the left only accessible to those in business class or with Oneworld Sapphire status. The other section is for Oneworld Emerald. Something with the recent changes to British Airways Executive Club, this might be the last time I visit. The lounge is spacious, and I love that they now have freshly steamed suamai, which is a Chinese delight, and plenty of seats by the window where you can see the planes during daylight hours. Next door, things are pretty similar, but there's a little bit more grandeur and it's much quieter. I think I only ever saw up to 3 other passengers in here at a time. The lounge is very long and thin, with the best place to sit on the lower level in those plush mustard yellow seats. You can also dine in the restaurant, but there's no time with 30 minutes remaining.
Time for a quick freshen up. The business class lounge is really comfortable and I do enjoy the buffet. It's a nice mix of Malaysian foods and also Western options as well. So you can just grab a yogurt if you want. Anyway, let's have a look at today's journey map.
Today's flight over to Shanghai Pudong Airport will be a good test of the long-haul service, taking 5.5 hours to reach the financial centre that is Shanghai, just in time for lunch. And much like yesterday, the boarding time means nothing, which is fine because I'm about to sit down for a long time. And there are some pretty dreamy views out the window, that's if you're a little bit of an aviation geek. Our flight is operated by the Airbus A330-300, and 9 Mike Tango Mike, that's a lot of mics, is nearly 12 years old and looking pretty fine. With the scheduled time, takeoff in 15 minutes, I'm not fully convinced that our 11:30 departure won't begin to slip. Never mind, it's time to look at the seat map, and this is important because where you sit will make a huge difference to your experience.
So as you can see, this is the throne seat, which is so much better because it occupies 2 seats. There were 27 seats across the whole cabin with the Vantage Aero seat, but these are the best.
For today's flight, I'm sitting in 6 Kilo, which is the best seat of which there are only 3, nicknamed the throne, because they occupy the space of 2 seats in the other rows. These understandably get reserved quickly, and if they are, then I would try and grab 2, 5 and 7 Alpha, which are adjacent to the window and have more privacy than the remaining seats. As for the other 21 seats available, these are perfect if you're travelling with a companion or you happen to have very long legs, because some of them next to the window require you to climb over your neighbour, with the last seats all having direct aisle access. It's no secret why Malaysian has invested in the new product on the Airbus A330neos, because it's just not competitive in today's world. But luckily for me, I don't have to think about that in my nice little nest. And if you weren't lucky enough to find a good deal at the front of the plane, we'll be flying the economy product later in the year, so stay tuned for that one. Malaysian's A330 Business Class features the Thomson Air Advantage seat, which can also be found on Aer Lingus and Singapore Airlines short haul, with 21 inches of width, converting into a 76-inch flat bed, with the throne seats having a lot of nice little extras. On my left is a useful side table, as well as a storage unit which was large enough to hide and retain all my equipment, including a charger, camera and my toothbrush. The tray table is hidden cleverly, but I'll reveal that later in the video. In addition, there are some more personalised seat controls unless you're just happy with the lie flat or relaxed standard. A USB-A and headphone jack with a small pocket for a mobile phone. The removable in-flight entertainment controller was extremely useful, because the screen can be a little bit sensitive, and finally a reading light with different settings. There is additional space on top of the storage unit. I probably wouldn't use it though because it's very exposed. The right hand side is less exciting but extremely useful because the table runs the full length of the seat, and below is a great space to store your shoes.
No champagne or wine for the welcome drink, but you can have guava, orange juice or apple juice.
Guava isn't particularly common in the UK, so I'm making the most of it while I can. This was followed shortly after by refreshing towel, which interestingly is served cold. Malaysian doesn't offer an amenity kit on a flight of this length, but you do get the same blanket and pillow, which will certainly do for a 5-hour flight. What was incredibly impressive, and having reached my seat, I heard a voice, and the voice greeted me by name. Bearing in mind there are 27 seats in the business class, the person knows everyone's name by heart.
Let's review the main aviation safety conventions as I mentioned at the start of the flight. It's tempting to not focus, cause let's face it, you've heard this all before this. Perhaps you've noticed this is not your average briefing, alright?
Santu, put your stuff away!
The direction of travel makes quite a difference to the expectation for the meal service. Bear in mind that this is breakfast time, they still have nasi lemak on today's flight, which is making my taste buds that little bit excited, but then comes with assorted bakery items. Due to the design of the table, unfortunately once it's deployed, you are trapped in the seat. If, unlike me, you were smart enough to visit the toilet first, there was a little bit of an issue, because officially there is only one toilet for business class at the very front of the plane, and if the pilots are using it or the meal service is in full operation, there are two behind, but technically they're in economy, but they do lock one out of use for business class passengers. The meal service starts off with a choice of drink. I'm a little bit torn, so I end up having a glass of white wine, vintage unknown, and the Malaysian Teh Tarik, which is a beautifully creamy and smooth tea. A quick search online even says that it is the unofficial national drink of Malaysia. It wouldn't be a meal service without some kind of bowl of peanuts, but oddly they also give you one in a Malaysian Airlines themed packet. Perhaps this is a souvenir to take home. When the tray table arrived, I was a little bit confused because of the empty plate. I can only guess this is because the main course is still warming up. So in the meantime you get to enjoy the mixed bowl of fruit, with the sizes pretty generous, and the yogurt, granola and apple coulis. Cabin crew come round again, offering a second choice of drink, and a packet of fried anchovies and peanuts, which I'm pretty sure I won't like, so I'll take it home for Brent. For the nasi lemak, it looks pretty good, even if it does come with a triangle of omelette. Was it Michelin star? No. But was it tasty? Definitely a yes. At this point I was really full, so I didn't want any of the optional bakery items which include bread and a croissant. So it's definitely time for some entertainment. I wonder how many airlines still publish magazines, because COVID saw a massive cull given the extra weight and the cost to produce them. Going Places is a mix of shopping, advertisements and good articles about the places to visit, but my favourite page is listing all the various planes in the fleet. I really hope that Malaysian has updated its interface design on the Airbus A330neos, because while the old one is fine, it slightly remembers a portable DVD player from the 2000s. I was really impressed with the choice of content, and there were a few new releases and even some classics. Recommendations I have two. Firstly, the Pink Panther movies, the newer version, which follows Inspector Clouseau, who is a bit of an idiot, but he's trying to solve an international crime, played by Steve Martin. Yes, it's a little slapstick humour, but it had me laughing my ass off in a few places. And the second, A Gift from Bob, is a true story about a cute ginger stray cat that changes the life of a homeless man in London. I thoroughly suggest you watch this with tissues at the ready, because it's sad and happy throughout. And that pretty much sums up the Malaysian Airlines experience. I will just add that while the seat is very comfortable, it could do with a few more possibilities, because when I wanted to get more comfortable, I ended up with my back against the wall of the seat, and not the chair itself.
Ladies and gentlemen, so Captain speaking. We have commenced our descent now passing 10,000 feet to Pudong International Airport in Shanghai.
Just boarded the maglev, which takes me into Shanghai. It's a really fast train, and it's called the maglev because it's got magnets underneath, so it goes like 300 kilometers an hour. There was a lot to take in from this trip, so we'll cover that in the hotel. Really impressed with the Malaysian hospitality. The cabin crew have to be the best thing about the experience. Perhaps the product on the A330 isn't quite modern enough, but that's why they're bringing in the Neo to be more competitive with the rivals. It is really good though in the throne seat, which is the one I got. There's only 3 on board. Food really enjoyed. It's again Malaysian. I love the skewer sticks, which you don't get on the breakfast, but you do get on the lunch and you do get on the dinner service as well. Really good with the entertainment system. There was so much content.
I'll just add that the service is consistent even on the short-haul routes, and it totally trumps what we have in Europe. So it seems that Malaysian has been reborn, and I'm really looking forward to flying their new product at some point. So thank you again for watching, and safe travels.